This is going to be really awesome. I think you guys will be really excited about this. We have a very special man here today doing this next talk. This is the venerable, the one and only Leonard. He is the co-founder and CCO of UbiquityVX. And he's doing a talk called Beyond the Game, Bring On the Immersive New Wave. Brett is a multi-award-winning director, writer, and producer who's worked on pushing the boundaries of storytelling across his whole career. You may know him as the director and writer of the cult classic Hollywood movie about VR, Lawnmower Man, with Pierce Brosnan. So, without further ado, Brett, enlighten us.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Great to be here. Thanks, Nina. Thanks, SVVR. You folks for having me here. I've been in this VR thing since I made a movie about it about 31 years ago, Lawnmower Man, and then I made another one called Virtuosity, Girls with Grown Denzel Washington, which is all about avatars coming into the real world and AI and nanotech. So now I'm living in the movies that I made a number of decades ago, which is a very strange thing. The reason the title is Beyond the Game, Bring On the Immersive New Wave, is because I believe we need now a tremendous energy behind process experimentation, behind really figuring out what this new medium and mediums is that we're dealing with here, because there are no rules yet. Anyone that tells you they know what spatial storytelling is actually, they're just starting to scratch the surface. Because there's not been anything that's gone out and actually created a full fire in the imagination of the zeitgeist yet. And that's the moment we're almost at. We're almost at the inflection point of this becoming something that's truly mass accessible. What you saw with the Ethereal engine, which I'm working with on some of the next projects I'm going to be showing you, is a revolution. It's a revolution in accessibility, in the thing that we've always had as a problem with virtual experience. That's what I call VX, virtual experience, because it involves everything that's virtual. Is the ability to simply and directly access it. So accessing it in the web with a link, to me, is the solution for that, and especially with the sophistication that Ethereal engine is utilizing, which I've developed as part of my new wave experiment, immersive new wave experimentation. Developed a company called UbiquityVX with my partner David Kirshner and co-founder Lee Ambrosia. Ubiquity is about delivering health and wellness, healthcare, virtual medicine in a virtual environment. Our chief scientist is Dr. Skip Rizzo, who's the #1 VR clinician on the planet, runs the ICT lab at USC. And so Ubiquity is utilizing the accessibility of WebXR, web-based virtual experience with virtual medicine. And we're going into physical therapy, ASD therapy, behavioral therapy, all the things that the great news about this is the fact that the science behind virtual medicine working for human beings to feel better literally exists. There's been a tremendous amount of research in this area over the last number of decades. Skip's been in it for 30 years, just like I've been in this thing for 30 years, and been proving clinically with 350 plus peer-reviewed papers, etc., that this is something that actually can work for healing people. And that to me is a great raison d'etre for this entire medium, because the irony for me is I told cautionary tales about virtual reality and yet helped popularize the damn thing. So beware of telling cautionary tales. What's interesting to me, apart from being able to deliver healthcare, through the web and through virtual experience, is utilizing next level tools. And some of the next level tools that we're going to be utilizing, we're going to show a little bit of a page of it, is markerless motion capture through the web, just through the browser. No special gear, no special cameras, just the devices you already have for physical therapy. This is a full, and Liam is doing it right there in real time on the web with just a link. That's very disruptive, people. That creates an entire, again, new level of accessibility to this kind of tool, and the ways in which you can use it in the healthcare arena it's literally a panacea, because it has so many things, range of motion therapy, all kinds of different therapies, including facial capture that allows us to read emotions for ASD therapy, things like that. So this is a tremendously exciting period where virtual medicine and virtual experience as a healing modality on the planet is starting to be developed, and at UbiquityVX we're going to be a big part of that. So that's the, and by the way, this is all very strange for a film director to be part of, obviously. And you know, for me, again, this idea of walking in and living in the movies that I made a number of decades ago, Lawnmower Man was literally about changing the brain, the neuroplasticity of a human being and helping them become more. And so years later, when I meet Dr. Skip Rizzo, he's actually been proving that out. Turns out he saw my movie, and that was one of the things that inspired him to go there. So again, beware of telling stories, because the stories we tell are very, very important. They're beyond us. They're beyond our egos. They're beyond anything. And the stories we tell about virtual experience, about this new medium, it's really important that we lean this into positive directions, because the power of this medium is not something to sneeze at. It's going to be much more powerful than any other medium in the history of humankind. And so the stakes are high. So we really need to take platonic responsibility for what we're doing with it. That's one of the reasons I'm going into health and wellness with this, because I think that that is a very important area. We need to develop and expand virtual experience. But apart from that, in terms of telling stories, I am also very interested in the use of AI, generative AI, to help expand human imagination, to help create a larger level of quality for the things we create in a way, in a much more seamless and transparent fashion. So I'm working with a company called DNA Block, which has essentially a plugin or a piece of AI software, generative software that sits on top of Unreal 5, and will be able to do so in other gaming engines as well, called Replicant. And it allows very rapid AAA list level animation to be created almost in real time. And it just, there's a tremendous amount of assets that are available instantly. I really encourage you to, this is Darkstar, drkstar.io. Check that out. Check out the company DNA Block. They're going to be allowing their tool to go out there to democratize it, allowing the creation of virtual worlds where we can experiment with what storytelling is in a virtual world. There is no one way of telling stories in a virtual world. As a matter of fact, I think throwing out a lot of the cinematic aspects of storytelling is also a mistake. There are things about cinematic engagement that need to be brought into the virtual world in terms of mise-en-scène, emotional engagement, etc. And so I've done a number of different process experiments, and that one called Hollywood Rooftop, which was a feature film we shot in both 360 VR and in traditional cinema simultaneously. And we're merging the two in post-production. I don't have any visuals of that here, but that's something that we're really excited by. And we're also using AI generative style transfer to create a waking life kind of rotoscope look in the context of stereoscopic virtual experience that's, by the way, 15-person ensemble drama, dialogue driven. See, so I'm trying to bring us into an actual movie as opposed to something that's a more abstracted form of virtual storytelling, which there's been a tremendous amount of amazing work done in that area. Very little of it gets seen by a mass audience, and that's a tragedy. We really are at the point where we need to kick this in the ass and create a real revolution around it. We're at the perfect moment in the terms of the business, the entertainment business writ large, because of the strikes and all that. We need to actually create new models, new modalities, new mediums in order to create greater value and wealth and worth for everyone working in it. This is the moment to do that. It has to be like what it was like in 1969 when they made Easy Rider. It needs to be that kind of moment, embracing these new technologies. It needs to be the kind of moment that happened when the Eclair French handheld cameras became handheld, and Jean-Luc Godard went out to the streets of Paris and made Breathless and changed the nature of feature film storytelling. That's the French New Wave. Now we need an immersive new wave. In that context, one of the things, by the way, you go to Darkstar, there's animations there, and one of the aspects of that is that we're going to be engaging crowdsourcing for the story, for even the animation itself. It's going to be an immersive film that never ends. It never stops evolving. You never get to an end point where it's a finished creation. I believe that's what's going to happen in the context of the future of quote-unquote cinema. The future of cinema is something beyond just the static, lean-back experience we have now. And that's because of the technological enablements we're doing. Another process experiment we're doing, and this is one of the most exciting things I've ever been involved in, is a full volumetric feature film, all done with volumetric capture. We're working with Ethereal Engine and with Wild Capture to create this. It's called Astral, and it's about multidimensional reality. What a surprise. It happens to fit the storytelling modality very easily. And we're really looking at how do you bring true interactive narrative as a ritual into the environment of a feature film-like story. Not just the linear, it's that undiscovered country between gameplay and game logic and linear narrative. And that really hasn't been fully unearthed yet at all. And that's why it's such an exciting moment to create an immersive new wave. The experimentation should be happening now, not just trying to do things that are just, corporate VR projects, etc. All that's great, amazing work, and really good to do, because we need those resources. But we really need to have the energy of Jean-Luc Godard and of Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda and Bert Schneider, who created Easy Rider, right now, and we can actually create a true revolution in the medium. The timing could not be better than right now. Any questions? Questions?
Over here, way over here.
Yes.
I have a question. I just wanted to say, it's your fault. I bought my first headset.
I've heard a lot of that. That's what I
I was
said.
going to say, I know it's not the first time you've heard that, but your movie made me go buy a virtual IO eyeglasses with a tracker in '96.
That's fantastic. Well,
This is
look,
all your fault.
well, it's not. But popularizing something and trying to ask questions about it, that's what we need to do now. We need to do it in an even greater degree, because we're at that revolutionary moment, that inflection point where the technological enablement really is becoming powerful enough for us to really do these things that we've been talking about for 3 decades. Yes?
Hey, wonderful talk, Brad. Nicole Lazaro from Follow White Rabbit. I was curious with your experience. I loved your cinematic references, and I was curious, what genres do you think are going to play best in XR?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think there needs to be more comedy in XR, because I think it's really inherently funny already, the idea of a virtual world. And the truth is, I come from the theater originally. There's a saying in the theater: death is easy, comedy is hard. And that is very true, because if you can make people laugh, no matter if it's in a drama, if it's in a horror film, if it's in any kind of genre, that's always the thing that will keep the buoyancy to a medium. And so if you look at Breathless, look at that film. It's constantly funny, and yet it's about, criminality on the streets of Paris. So that aspect of it, I think, needs to be brought in more. People that understand comedy, that want to really workshop comedy, very important. Of course, the ability to show other kinds of aesthetics beyond just photorealistic aesthetics. I believe there is cyber aesthetics that are not fully expressed yet, and there are things that we should dive in there. Photorealism is, of course, a goal for many, many things, but it's not the only goal. We can take the human imagination to other places with this medium. I think that's one of the reasons it exists. Another woman yes.
Hello, I'm Casey.
Hi, Casey.
I work in VR comedy, but
Great.
my question is separate.
Yes.
What is the timeline in comparison for producing with extended reality versus real life production? How much shorter and or productive is it?
That's a huge conversation. It's as they say in Australia, how long's a piece of string, mate? It's really dependent on what you're trying to achieve. I mean, and when I shot this feature in full 360 and traditional cinema, we did the whole thing in 18 days. In 2 mediums.
18?
Yes, because one, I was doing a process experiment, so there were cost limitations, and so it was a micro-budget feature done in VR and in traditional cinema. And so that kind of tension that happens when you have limited resources creates another level of invention And I find that to be very important. And when I talk about an immersive new wave, I mean doing things on a shoestring that are process experiments that really, we need a lot of that right now because it is not, we do not have the rules yet, people. The rhetoric is not defined, and it's a time to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is gonna be the last question.
Okay?
Well, I'm just curious on the note of length, you mentioned a like never-ending movie.
Not lengthwise, it's just going to be, continue to evolve through group mind process in a virtual environment.
Okay.
So you can constantly change it, evolve it through a curation process that's going, and that's what Dark Star is designed to be. I call it anti-directing. It's literally flipping
Is
everything
it
I
more
think
like
as a director and doing something that's more like curation.
Constantly developing.
Yeah, it's in development, but we're actually creating all those assets, and it's something it's been stealth launched, it's about to be fully launched.
It's like something about movies is like, it's a complete thing that everyone can converge on and have a discussion about, and I'm wondering.
Look, I love cinema, you're not gonna get me to
Yeah,
say
of course.
anything against cinema, because it's my religion literally, but there are things about this medium that go beyond that, and I think that that's what we're exploring. Okay, that's it.
Very cool.
Thanks very much.
so much. It was a big round of applause, guys. That was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. That was really great.